Alright guys, and welcome back. 2 videos in 2 weeks. I would not get used to it, but let's get into it. Baha Medea. I think this was her follow-up EP to her debut LP, which I do not own. I've always wanted to own it. Baha Medea is one of the greatest. I won't even say she's one of the greatest female rappers, because she's so nice that she is just one of the greatest, most slept on rappers ever. I really wish we had more music from her, but everything she put out was absolutely classic. I feel like I talked about this album before. Did I talk about this D.I.T.C album before? I got this album for free. He was offering it for free through his website. All you had to do was pay for shipping. I'm pretty sure we did talk about this. It has the Idea tribute on it. This is a great album. It's got some really solid production on it. D.I.T.C is a very solid rapper. Yeah, this is the album that made me a fan. Lord Tariq and Peter Guns. Probably most notable now, obviously, because Peter Guns' son, Corey Guns, has been trying to make a name for himself for the last decade plus. This album, when it came out, was borderline popular. It was almost a hit, but not quite a hit. Tariq and Peter Guns really never made it over that hump, but there's a lot of nostalgia wrapped up in this album. I got nothing against it. Snow Goons. I've tried pretty hard with a few different Snow Goons albums. I'm really not a huge fan of their production, and I think it took me quite a while to come to terms with that. They work with a lot of great underground rappers, specifically people within that Army of the Pharaohs circle. You'll see Reef the Lost Cause is on here, Chief Kamachi's on here, Block McCloud's on here, La Coca Nostra, and Helta Skelta. That's pretty dope. But yeah, I've just never been a huge fan of their style of production. I appreciate it for what it is, harkening back to that hardcore boom bap in the early 2000s underground. But for me, the Snow Goons it never quite clicked with me. King Gordy, which I actually picked these up maybe a month ago. I went out CD digging, and I stumbled across all of these where you can see the price on them is dirt cheap. I haven't listened to any of these yet. I actually am a fan of Gordy. I love hardcore, horrorcore, hip-hop, especially from Detroit. And King Gordy is an absolute legend in the horrorcore scene. That being said, I picked all these up at the same time for dirt cheap, and I have not had a chance to listen to any of them. But I was happy to add these to the collection. Debut album from D.I.T.C. Fat Joe, Diamond, Big L, Showbiz, Lord Finesse, Buck Wild, AG. Just one of the greatest crews out of New York. Some of the greatest rappers of all time. Some of the greatest producers of all time. This was a fantastic album, and I think D.I.T.C has a few projects out there, but I think this is widely considered to be their only official LP. And I think if you're only going to get one album out of that crew, this is the album you wanted it to be. Delivers on exactly everything you would want. Just some traditional hardcore New York hip hop. Just fantastic rapping, fantastic production. Buck Wild, Digging in the Crates, an absolutely essential compilation for anybody that is a fan of East Coast hip hop. This is just a lot of remixes, a lot of rarities. He has an Organized Confusion remix on here, Bring It On, where Pharoah Monch and Prince Poe redid their verses, and Pharoah Monch's flow is even more fucking insane. This one, man, you have to listen to this one. You got to find this one if you're a fan of that style of music, because this is just classic after classic after classic. I picked this one up a few months ago, Abandoned Beats. This was, I'm assuming, leftover beats. I'm assuming that's why it was titled that. Anyways, just an instrumental album from Buck Wild. A lot of great early New York hip-hop beats on here. I really enjoyed this one. It's more of a beat tape than an instrumental album, if that makes any sense. Instrumental albums usually thematically kind of have something holding them together and they're sequenced in a certain way. This is just more of a collection of old Buck Wild beats, which there's nothing wrong with that, and I think it is definitely worth checking out. One of the greatest debut albums of all time, OC, Word Life. Just magnificent production, flawless rapping. There's a reason this is considered a classic. You've probably seen this pop up on a lot of lists of greatest albums of all time. It's there for a reason. I could not recommend that one enough. Jules was actually my first OC album. This was the first album I ever heard from him. I thought it was personally a classic. With the power of retrospect, I do believe his debut album is the better of the two albums, but I think this is just a magnificent follow-up. I think if you're a fan of that first album, you're going to love that second album. This one I have not listened to in quite a while. I remember being much more poppy, a lot more polished. I remember really disliking this album. But again, it has been a long time since I listened to it. So maybe we'll go back to that one at some point. But this might be a hot take. My favorite OC album is Star Child. And I just think the production on this album, the atmosphere that it creates, OC's rapping, everything about this album is just flawless in my opinion. And I think if you have to listen to one OC album, I know people are going to say his debut was the way to go. For me personally, I'm going to point you towards this album. I think it's just an absolutely flawless record that is not talked about nearly enough. Smoke and Mirrors. I really disliked this one. I thought the production on it was just not very good. I really wanted to like it. I never really disliked an OC album until I heard this one. Even his earlier project, what was it, Bon Appetit? I disliked it, but I didn't hate it. This one I actually hated. You can see it came out on the Hyro record label. I just had a lot of expectations for this, and it just failed to meet pretty much any of them. That's another one where I would like to revisit it, but it also left such a bad taste in my mouth that I'm not in a hurry to really jump on that. Hidden Gems, that's probably pretty self-explanatory. It's a lot of B-sides, leftover cuts, unreleased songs. That's a good one. Some classic OC material on there. Okay, now I remember this is OC and AG, Oasis. I remember when this came out, it kind of got a lackluster response. And I never understood it because I thought it was a really, really well-made album. I thought the production was solid. I thought the rapping was great. A lot of people, though, just did not seem to really care for this one. I personally think it's dope. I think if you stumble across this, it's definitely worth checking that one out. You know what? Fuck it. If we're doing hot takes. OC and Apollo Brown. I know a lot of people consider Trophies to be a classic. Like, almost universally heralded as a modern classic. I thought it was kind of boring. I've made my opinions on Apollo Brown known. I think he's a competent producer. He's never really blown me away. I feel like this album is a good enough album, but every time I listen to it, I just can't help but want to listen to pretty much any other OC project. That's just me, though. A lot of people love this album, so definitely check that one out if you're interested in either of those artists. Lord Finesse, DJ Mike Smooth, Funky Technician. This was Finesse's debut album. Finesse is just an absolutely incredible rapper. For people that have never heard Finesse, the best comparison I could give is that Finesse pretty much laid the groundwork for Big L. So if you're a fan of Big L, and I know pretty much anybody watching these videos, you're probably a fan of Big L. Big L essentially got his style from Lord Finesse. And you're going to listen to a lot of the early Lord Finesse material, and you're going to hear basically the groundwork for everything that L would go on to perfect. Finesse is also a great producer. I don't feel like he gets nearly enough love as a producer either. Showbiz and AG. This was their debut album. This is a classic album. This is just more of that dirty, raw D.I.T.C music. And, you know, their first two albums are really neck and neck for me. I don't think I could choose one over the other. I think they're both classic albums. I think these are essential. These are essential listens, especially when you start to go down that D.I.T.C rabbit hole. This is a show. Let me see. Street Talk. We got Fat Joe, Big L, Big Pun, Party Arty, OC, MOP. I haven't listened to this one in a while. I'll have to go back and check it out. A lot of great features, though. I'm assuming Showbiz probably produces this whole thing. This one was not well received when it came out. I listened to it. I actually thought it was pretty decent. It is a little long. I wish I had a production list in front of me. I feel like he had a lot of really good producers on this. But this album, I feel like it gets way more hate than it deserves. I think that one was actually pretty good. Stunts, Blunts, and Hip Hop, Diamond D. This is another classic album. I was never as big a fan of it as other people are. Like, I've seen this one pop up a lot in, you know, top 10, top 20 albums of all time. It would not rank that high for me, but I do think the production on here is great. I think Diamond is an entertaining performer. I think it's a classic album for a reason. I've just never loved it as much as everybody else seems to. And that one I have not listened to nearly enough to give you an opinion on. But I do enjoy most all of Diamond's music. Classic debut album from Big L, Lifestyles of the Poor and Dangerous. Just some of the most elite level rapping you will ever hear. Early Jay-Z features on here. There's early Cameron features on here. But really the star of this thing is Big L. Just the level that he was rapping at such a young age is just almost unbelievable. And the fact that this was the only album we got from him in his lifetime is a fucking shame. Definitely a classic album. After he passed, they released The Big Picture. This has a lot of great guest features on it. Cool G Rap's on there. I believe Big Daddy Kane was on there. They got a Tupac feature that they cobbled together for this. It's not a bad album. It does pay tribute to L in a respectful way. It's just, you know, like most albums that are released after the artist's death, you just can't help but wonder how much better it would have been if he would have been alive to see that project through. And there's actually been quite a handful of Big L releases after he died. Most of them just kind of bringing together random tracks he put out back in the day, random remixes, pairing him up with other rappers. I think we all know how it goes after a rapper dies, and they're just trying to squeeze everything they can out of his legacy. But I will never complain about having more Big L music to listen to. Fat Joe, I was never really a big fan of. Even back when he was with D.I.T.C, I felt like he was the weakest member. And that's no shade to Joe himself. He was just never my cup of tea. I do have a lot of his albums. None of them that I ever really loved until The Dark Side, which we'll touch on here in a second. So this was the album for me, which I picked up randomly. Even not being a huge fan of Fat Joe, you could probably see most of those other ones were purchased secondhand. For whatever reason, I bought this one new when it came out, and I really loved it. I thought just the production he had on it was perfect. I thought his delivery, his rhyme style, he did everything he needed to do on this album. I don't really see people talk about it, so maybe it's just me, but for whatever reason, I really, really love this Fat Joe album. I think if you're going to check out a Joe album, this is definitely a good place to start. Another classic album, Big Pun, Capital Punishment. Some of the absolute greatest rhyming you will ever hear. Just elite, elite, elite level lyricism. A lot of great songwriting, some fantastic production. You cannot say enough good things about Big Pun as a rapper, and on this album, he really just showed out. It is such a perfect performance from a rapper. The follow-up album is a lot more polished. It's a lot more pop. At this point, Pun was so heavy that you could tell it. Pun had gotten so heavy that it changed his style of rapping. It slowed him down a little bit. It wasn't nearly as complex, and you could tell he was struggling a lot with his breath control. I'm not a huge fan of this album. I think it does have some great cuts on it. It has some classics on it. But as a full album, it definitely wasn't as good as Capital Punishment. Endangered Species, which was essentially a compilation of tracks he had featured on. It's a great track list, though. There's a lot of great features. Nori, Lox is on there, Jadakiss, Nas. This is a great release. It's a respectful way to pay tribute by bringing together a lot of his really dope guest features and showcasing what a special talent he was. The debut album from Terror Squad, which the only reason I picked this one up was because I wanted to hear some more Big Pun verses I hadn't heard. I'm not a huge Terror Squad fan. It's an okay album. I mean, it's worth listening to just to get the few Pun verses you get. And then that one, I remember being pretty big when it came out. I skipped over it. I picked it up after the fact because I found it used cheap enough. I've never really sat down and spent a lot of time with it. But again, I'm not a huge Terror Squad fan. Someday, though. Someday I'll sit down and listen. But alright, guys. Quick and slick. That wraps up another shelf. Next time, we're going to be going into some more underground legends. We're going to talk about Chino XL, R.A. the Rugged Man, Immortal Technique, Megahertz. There's a lot of really dope albums coming up. I appreciate you guys for checking this video out. And until next time.